goal tonight is that everyone think through and share the top 2 must have, can't live without AI tools. And I've got a survey that we can start, and hopefully I can do this correctly. So let's do the survey. I think the survey is correct. It'll show a list of tools, so everyone can at least vote on 2. You can probably vote on more than 2, but just vote on your top tool, and then we'll come back and we'll open it up, and people can share the top ones here. Lucinda, can you see the poll? Okay, great.
Oh my gosh, there's so many of these. I love them. I love them all.
I know those specialized ones. I know that some of the coders will, have their favorite ones, but we probably should have taken some guesses on what the most popular ones for this unscientific sample is, but
I did a lot of improvements in that deep research. I use it a lot these days. They almost go to 100 websites and everything like that. And the recent update they did, it's pretty amazing, actually. The user interface is well done. It gives you all the thinking process, just like how DeepSeek does it. Shows what website it is doing, what kind of information it is collecting it, because Google has the strength in the search and everything, right? So they're able to leverage that and put together the deep and the kind of information it gives. 7-8 pages research reports are just amazing. I use it almost on a daily basis now.
that's great. So thank you. Have you tried some of the others? Have you tried Grok's deep research or Perplexity's deep research?
No, I've been using mostly Gemini. I haven't tried the Grok one yet. Perplexity, yeah, all these things. I have the paid version on the Gemini, and rest of them are still in the paid wall. So, yeah, I think Grok is still free. I'll try it out. The beauty about Google Deep Research is I have like 2 terabytes of data on my Google Drive, and it will create the Google Docs right away. So you just export it, and then I give it to Google Notebook LM to create podcasts and whatever, right? So it kind of goes well into that, what do you call that? All the Google tools together. Yeah.
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
good. Well, we've got 78% participating, so thanks everyone. And looks like the winner. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see the results on my end?
No.
No.
Wonder how. So let me take a screenshot of this and I'll stick it on the slides. And just give me a second here. And we'll go back and we'll reshare. So here are the results. So OpenAI, the most frequent at 69%, Perplexity, second at 62, and third is Claude. Let's see what else, if I can go back to the results here. I think they all got votes except for Lovable. Yeah, go ahead, Lucinda.
Yeah, so I mean, among the various LLMs and various deep researches and things like that, I tried different ones. A lot of times I don't do all of them because it's just too much to read. I mean, it's like literally too much to comprehend. So I found that those are good. And then I guess the other big one really is Cursor, which is the AI development one. It's hard to know whether to do Cursor or Windsurf or Replit or whatever. I played with Replit a little bit. I tried Lovable, didn't, I got kind of stuck on that one. I think Replic's a little bit better, I think, but I'm interested to hear what other people have found. But yeah, I mean, and then occasionally I need a graphic for a presentation, and then I'll use Dolly or one of the other ones. So
But make sure I listen. But your kind of go-to are OpenAI and Cursor. Those are two main tools right now.
yeah, right.
Okay.
I would say if I do, yeah, I mean, Claude, it's kind of Claude slash OpenAI
Yeah.
together, right?
Yeah.
I actually do a fair amount of Claude only because if I'm doing things with like for client data, then I will use AWS Bedrock with Claude 3.7. So that way I can do all of my stuff, behind a wall, and I don't have to worry about it leaking out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And let me say it's slightly different. All in a trust boundary that you feel comfortable that the contractual agreements are holding up and people are honoring them, whoever running the servers, that this data is not being used for training purposes. Your client data. Yeah.
Right, right. And you can use Bedrock in a chat in a playground mode, which is just like a chat. I don't think Claude has. Nobody is really good doing research on the internet. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll do deep research with OpenAI or one of the other deep researches or Alden's, and then do the research on the kind of public aspect of whatever I'm looking at. And then, like if a company is going to be acquired, I may just do some stuff on one of the acquirers, and then I'll go and take that data and put in the information we know about our client, and then say see how does it take the research from the outside that's been across many websites, and then do the information we know on the inside and do that inside AWS.
Yeah.
So I think about the sequence of things and how to not leave too many breadcrumbs.
That's great. Who else would like to share? Raise your hand and let me know what two are your indispensable. Raymond, what are you? I know you're quite an experimenter. Good, Raymond.
Yeah, quite an experimenter. Yeah, I like Cursor a lot. But I play with Windsurf a little bit, but day to day it's Cursor and Warp. Warp is really useful. I bumped into N8N recently, and I just fell in love with it. It's just I don't know. It's like something new. It's like playing with Roblox, and there's so many capabilities. And now you can utilize MCP services. So, they've integrated MCP. It's awesome. So I'm doing a lot of Frankensteins. Like I'm right now I'm trying to use Open Manist with MCP and DSPY, right? So I cover like the prompting, the tools and the agent capabilities, and I'm just trying all different things, just as soon as it comes out, and I test it, and that way I can advise people, whether it's worth their time or not.
What's Cursor doing well in particular? It's gotten obviously tremendous amount of growth.
Yeah,
What does
I
that do
mean,
well? Yeah.
the prediction thing has been going on for a while, but most of these, even with Windsurf and I think with Cursor I'm using Claude 3.7, I think it is, or is it 2.7? I don't know, 3.7. It ends
3.7.
3.7, yeah. So I'm using that. But still, I find from time to time, I'll run into an error, and I ask it a question, and I still have to go back and double check. You can never take anything for granted, So I find that, but it does expedite the process, and I'm working on this other little play thing. It's a Vibe app, because I've declared that Vibe is the word for 2025. And so it's an app that you just put in a sentence, and it adds Vibe to it in some fashion. It works with DeepSeek, but it takes too long. OpenAI is really quick with it, though.
Yeah, I mean, Vibe was good. We hadn't had a new word in like a week or so it was good to get this whole Vibe thing going. Yeah,
it was, as soon as I heard it, like Vibe, I started hearing it everywhere. It's like I see it everywhere now. So it's the word for 2025, definitely.
that's great. Yeah, thank you, Raymond. Tim, what are your favorite tools?
Well, I think I put OpenAI and ChatGPT and Claude. I guess you sort of have to start to stratify here a little bit. At least I do, because I thought, well, if I only had if I was on a desert island and I had internet and a computer, what would I want? And the answer was ChatGPT and OpenAI, because you can build the rest of the stuff from there. Now, if you're doing coding, then I like Claude Code, I like Cursor. So there are specific tools, and deep research, of course, is part of ChatGPT. So it's sort of a little bit hard to parse these out at that level. But I use ChatGPT and OpenAI still, and Anthropic Claude every day. Every day, I still use them, whether it's deep research or just good questions. And I think I give the most improved to Claude. Somebody said in the chat that they didn't like the tone that Claude was using anymore. I think it's improved, actually. I think it's a lot better now. I think its reasoning is better. I think its tone is better. I just think it's just better at everything. They're still close, and I still use them both and go back and forth. And vibe coding is definitely the word of the week. It's Andrej Karpathy. When Andrej says something, people listen, because he's one of the original OpenAI guys. And he talked about this vibe coding. And I think the bigger message is what it really means is that prompting is becoming less important. The models are getting smart enough that you can just sort of have a dialogue. And of course, the one that really blew all of our minds is Sesame a few weeks ago. That is just mind blowing how good it is at both emotional understanding and intimate. I don't want to say too intimate, but let's say a more intimate feeling conversation. And so all of a sudden prompting is not as much of a big deal, it seems, anymore. And I think that's the point that Andrej was making at a deeper level, is you can just start talking to these things and you get the vibe, and they get the vibe, and then all of a sudden you have a program.
Yeah, and part of the vibe, I interpret, Tim, as part of the vibe is interpretation of intent. So
exactly,
I'm pulling.
They're getting much better at pulling the context out of you, at remembering a longer conversation, and understanding your actual intent when it's a little bit more nuanced and complicated, so you don't have to spell it out. If you spell it out, although actually I was told the deep research tools don't like it. If you spell it out too much, they actually perform worse. I don't know. I haven't done any sort of experiments on that front, but I think they all have prompt fixers now, where you can sort of tell them, make me a better prompt than this. I know it's not good, so just make me a better one. And now they're starting to just do it automatically. They just make a better prompt for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Rosemary, what are yours?
Sure. So when ChatGPT came out with their app, I upgraded 2 computers just so that I could use it. And now that I have the app, it's like every day it's one keystroke and there's ChatGPT. So it's so incredibly easy to use. Why would I go somewhere else?
So it's the integration into your personal workflow through the app that's really been a help for your continued use of it.
Well, sure. So all I have to do is hit like option space, and up comes the box.
Yeah.
And it's not like I have to leave anything, I don't have to go to another browser window or anything. It's just right there.
Yeah, I agree. I think ChatGPT wins the user interface war for the moment. In fact, I'm surprised at how many times I will, get into the car and back out of the driveway and then just plunk the ChatGPT button and ask it a question on the way, and they'll just and once you get the conversation started, you can just keep talking to it. It's really good. So they know they're in.
That's great. Thank you, Rosemary. Who else? Mark, Katrina, Rodney. This is the shyest group we've had. This is Patty's Day shyness.
Are you looking for tools that aren't in the list, or did you want what I answered from your list?
I want you to answer. What are the 2 most important? Why?
The 2 that I answered were Perplexity and Claude. So I love Claude for coding, because I still do some coding. And then Perplexity has replaced Google for me. Like, I just ask it everything.
Yeah.
I'll never go to Google anymore.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'll jump in there since you called my name. But similar to you, I've actually turned into Perplexity as my Google at this point right now, and I also use a lot of Claude. And I don't know. I actually, it's funny, I saw the comment about the writing, essentially, but I actually like Claude's writing, and I feel like I've been able to set it up in a certain way that it almost like writes like me for that matter. So, you know, I've enjoyed that piece. And then last but not least, I think what do you call that again? The coding tool. What's it called? We just
Replit? Are you
not
talking about?
Replit, the one we were just talking about.
Oh,
Sorry,
Cursor?
Cursor. Yeah, sorry about that. I started using
Cursor
it
is
again
nice.
to kind of like go back to coding and stuff like that. Just stuff that I hadn't been doing as much, but honestly, it makes it easy to kind of get things up so quickly that I'm, you know, doing a lot of little scripts and things that I think I just wouldn't have bothered just for the amount of time. But you can, you know, the fact that you can actually throw something together pretty quick is pretty good.
Great. Thank you, Rodney. Is that Adam with hand up?
No, sheesh. I don't know. Looks
I
like
was gonna say what.
yeah, Adam hacked my name, I guess.
That is hilarious.
Really funny.
Yeah, my tool of choice, again, OpenAI ChatGPT stays on the top. I mentioned in the chat as well. I seen that my Google usage has gone down drastically.
Yeah.
My two primary usage of Google were answers to questions, which is totally taken over by Perplexity. And then the second usage was find the URL to something, right? So that's still the case that if I need something, I'll say, hey, blah, and it'll say blah.com or whatever, and it gives me a quick link to that place. But otherwise, for information search, Perplexity is my go-to tool.
I heard someone describe that last one as a URL navigator, which I thought was interesting characterization of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what Google is reduced to now.
Yeah, it's stunning. And I don't know why that trend we're just talking about here is not going to move over to the next 25% of Google usage here. I mean, it's, you know, Perplexity is just going to get better, and Google doesn't seem to be catching here.
I also saw somewhere that Google usage was quoted, and they have a huge drop, almost about 20% in usage. Again, I don't have.
I'm not surprised.
I think people are overrated. We're all, you know, moss to the lamp here. We're heat seekers, and the 5%ers. That's what we used to joke about. We used to, you know, the 5%ers can do anything with any tool because they'll just make it work. Yeah. I keep my hands on Google. Perplexity is great, but I'll tell you what, Google's generative AI searches are getting really good already. And they barely started, and they have a lot of money and a lot of market power. And I think Perplexity's got a long ways to go. They're really hot now, but I would be surprised if, and I have been surprised. I will say Google has not done a great job over the last year and a half, but I wouldn't underestimate them. They have a lot of power. And they have a lot of good stuff. That, you know, their DeepMind is still the source of everything that has created this whole market.
Yep.
Actually, I agree. If you don't mind, I have just one comment about that. I agree with that. The one thing that's interesting, though, is that Perplexity search, or just using AI search versus Google search, the question is, how are you going to monetize it? And where's the monetization going to come in? Because I've actually gotten really used to and enjoy the fact that I ask a question, I don't have to look at 3 different options. I just say, you know, how old is so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. I don't go to celebrity.
Well, they're all gonna embed ads, which is terrible, so? But that's what that, oh yeah. Because that's the only thing they know how to do. And this is why I say, I think if Perplexity wants to win, they'd have to invent a new model. And then maybe they could really shake things up. But my guess is they're going to go right to ads. They already are, I think.
They already are.
And if they do, you know, it's going to be really tough to compete with Google. Google just owns so much power in the ad space.
Yeah. We did see that one of the, a couple of weeks ago, I forget which vendor was presenting, but they were presenting stats that the users are spending twice as much time on Perplexity than they do on Google.
Right.
So from an advertiser standpoint, if it's all about the minutes and attention, it's an interesting model there.
Well, it goes back to Rosemary's been talking about this forever about, we've had a couple of guests now talking about the shift from SEO to whatever we're going to call it, LLMEO. But that's what's going to happen. And it's a little bit perverse in that sense, just a different kind of perversity. So instead of bowing to the search gods at URLs, we'll bow to the search cards at answer engines. So but it's still about content management and how you serve up your content to these whatever we want to call them, answer engines or whatever.
Yeah, but before we go to Alden, but Tim, at least we've got 15 to 20 different answer engines and not just one.
For the moment,
For
the
now.
moment, there'll be a couple at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Alden.
Yeah. So not only are people spending more time in answer engines like ChatGPT and Perplexity, but when these engines send traffic over to the website, it converts almost 6 to 7 times higher than Google, right? And that is important because when Perplexity and ChatGPT do come out with their monetization model, whether it's ads or something else, businesses like us will be willing to spend more.
Well, we'll see. Again, I'll be, I'll try not to talk too much here, Paul. You can shut me up. But Google used to be great when it didn't have ads, and even when it just had a couple of ads. And now it's a piece of shit because everything is ads, and it takes you 15 scroll downs before you get to the first actual result. And I see the same thing happening where it's great using Perplexity and all the other things now because they're just funded on VC. But once there's like 16 sponsors, Alden, unless you've got more money than God, you're going to be 16.
Yeah. But till then, we'll enjoy the party. We'll optimize.
Yeah, it's great. It's nice. I love these markets when they're early because people, because it is a little bit like getting a free lunch before everybody catches up.
That's right. Go ahead, Alexander.
Yeah, I was just going to say kind of two comments here. I mean, with Perplexity, and I use Perplexity more than Google now, and that's been that way for like a year. But I think the fact that they've already trained a certain subset of users to pay for the pro side, right? It has tons of values on the pro side. So I think that makes it a little bit more different than Google, but they obviously have to go through ads because that's the game of search. And then also the fact if they're able to serve different forum types answers, like Reddit and all these different types of forums in a more interesting way than Google, you will start to see them getting more of a market share even past this, because that's what it really comes from. What kind of human answers can you find, from these search engines?
That's great. Thank you, Alexander. I want to go back now to see our search, our deep research. So remember earlier we put in this prompt, search legal liability. So this is in this OpenAI deep research capability. There's a couple other products. I'm just showing the one from deep research. You put in the prompt and you wait 6-10 minutes. It decides which websites it goes to. Over in the right, it shows you different sources it went through. And then what comes out is, here's a research paper. And this took 9 minutes. Not sure why it says 0 sources here. And this is a pretty comprehensive legal liability analysis of these forever chemicals, or PFAS. Goes through and calculates the different trends. It's formatting it. And what's been interesting that I have now done this, oh goodness, maybe 30 or 40 times, I find someone, this is a good example, who is a subject matter expert in a particular area. I have them tell me a problem. I ask the deep research robots to go create a report, and I give it to them and ask them to grade it. And this is a person came back and said, this is a B+ work. This would have taken a person who's familiar with this area probably 2 weeks to write. And, it's got to be double checked, but boy, it is one heck of a start on getting something done in 9 weeks or 9 minutes instead of 3 weeks. And in the back, you'll see as I keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling that you do have in the back the whole different sources here. So a real important, new category. And I think I certainly argue it's one of the reasons that 10 to 20% of $100,000 plus jobs are going to be redefined or eliminated in the next 2 or 3 years because of tools like this from analysts and everything else here. So it's and as Alden knows, I've been on this kick asking everyone about it. And usually I'm at AI events, only 5 or 10 people actually used it. Last week at the at Human X conference, Alden, I probably asked 50 people if they've heard and used OpenAI. And at least in that group, it was still just 50%. There was still 50% of the people who flew to Vegas, paid the $2,000 to $3,000 to go to that show, super enthusiastic. It still had not used these research tools. So it's really, it's breathtaking. So yeah, so to Tim's point, we're like we're like the moth inside the moth inside the moth against this light here. But what other tools? Anybody else want to share their tool experience or things that are indispensable? Has anyone moved away from OpenAI and exclusively using Perplexity and?
No, I still use both. I still pay for all of them at $20, but because sometimes I try all of them, and then sometimes some use cases OpenAI is better. Sometimes it's Claude. Something I don't find one Gemini. I don't find one consistently better than the others.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alden and David.
Yeah, it reminds me of my dad's toolbox. You know, he had this garage where there were different tools. And what I find myself doing is before reaching out and opening the tab, I find myself running that tool in my mind, sort of like, what do I want to do? Right? If I want an answer, Control T, Perplexity.
Yeah.
You want to code, Control T, Claude. If I am too tired, I don't want to think, ChatGPT is the go-to. And I think that's where a lot of us are going to go to. Like, you want video, you go to VO.
Yeah.
You want answers, you always go to Perplexity. And that's what I think a lot of us are going to do.
It's a great analogy, Alden. It's really great. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I stuck this in the chat already, but I figured I'd just mention it verbally as well. I found that a chat hub, which allows you to search up to 6 models simultaneously, really valuable. And the summary feature of it is not great, but there's a single button click which will copy all of the answers to everything. And like, for example, DeepSeek will sometimes capture errors that Claude doesn't, but Claude tends to be quick and concise, for coding things. And so even though the summary is not great, it often lists differences between them, but you can, as I said, you can copy the entire thing with all of the answers and put that into whatever model you want and ask for questions about it. So it's pretty, compared to putting it into 6 different models, it's a dramatic speed increase. And also something that people haven't mentioned a lot, but I listened to one of Lex Friedman's podcasts on for the people who wrote Claude, and they said, the answers Claude gives, if you ask it the same identical question several times, is not the same. And some of them will be right and some of them will be wrong. And so I think that just sort of appreciating that. And then Chat Hub, you can ask the same question a few times and ask it of multiple models and then give that to some other. Anyway, I found that very helpful for coding. That's
great. Yeah. Chat Hub, and there's no, Chat Hub is really wonderful. Yeah, go ahead. Alexander.
Yeah, I think a tool that I really like to use is agent.ai. It's a marketplace from Dharmesh, the guy who created HubSpot. And yeah, it's really interesting to use, and it's kind of straightforward. It's not like all the other agent builders that you might have a little bit more control over it, of course, but it's not like something that you could instantly get in. With agent.ai, you can actually instantly pretty much get into all these different tasks that they have that they can do with agents.
Alden, think about your toolbox. So across my Chrome, I've got 7 or 8 robots across. On my iPhone, I've got 7 robots here. And I'm always forcing myself to use different of them. But you mentally, I never impressed with Copilot. I always force myself to use Copilot every now and then just because I feel like I need to experience that tool. But I always feel like, throw it back in the toolbox and then grab the the saw that's actually the form fitter there. But it's but getting in I found getting it into your personal workflow, Rosemary, like you're talking with the app, it's hard, but once it gets in there, it's pretty seamless. And I'm really bullish on the voice stuff. Let's do a few more minutes, or let's do open mic. Does anybody have things they want to share? Open mic for people who are new. You pick up the mic, you get 2 or 3 minutes, you can ask a question, share an observation, anything but complaining about politics or tariffs or anything else, but anything related to AI is most welcome.
I'll ask a question. Has anybody been using LLMS.txt files on their website yet?
You want to explain what those are, man?
Pardon?
You want to explain what those are?
Okay, so it's sort of like instructions for an LLMS. And so I think what I'll do is when we have ours correctly created, I'll show it next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Rosemary, the idea of these things is that for your website to speak LLM well, to be
Right,
attractive to
it's
them. Is
giving,
that correct?
right,
Yeah.
it's giving it more information to ingest in a better way. You think about a website, it's got all images and all kinds of, distractions on it that an LMS doesn't like.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the traditional websites are optimized for those carbon-based, those humans, and file are optimized for those silicon people. Well,
Yeah,
good.
Well, actually, as we were saying, they're optimized for search engines right now. So now we're just giving them instructions to optimize them. It's ironic that we have this incredible AI and we still have to give it sort of kindergarten instructions, but maybe not all that surprising.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, we'll end early. So thank you, Lucinda. Last mic, Lucinda.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to share that one of the things I've been working on has been with spreadsheets that have questions that are asked and then also narratives among several different areas. And that the LLMs have been pretty good at, it takes a lot of tweaking of the prompt, but the LLMs have been good to just be able to take either a PDF and it reads the PDF and it can tell whether in a given section of the questions and the narrative, whether they're in conflict or not. So I want to do more and more things with, and if anybody has any experience with this, on using text data and kind of getting some sort of a column that you can add to your structured data, and therefore now you can use it better on, for machine learning or things like that. So just question out there.
That's great. Thank you, Lucinda. David and Pavani. Go ahead, David.
Hi. Yeah, I just also wanted to throw out something that's been sort of amusing. So in general, these AIs are freaking unbelievable, as everyone in this group knows. There's certain problems, however, where they're really horrible. I've asked them some geometry problems and they get stuck over and over and over again. And they are 100% confident they're correct, but they're just wrong. And so I started asking them, this is just sort of amusing. I started asking them, I said, don't give me an answer until you've done it in two completely different ways. And I gave some suggestions of how to do it. And if the answers don't correspond, realize you don't have the right answer and ask me for help. And so it's been really interesting because it'll try it and it gets stuck and it says, I have two different answers, but two different ways. I have no idea why they're different. Can you help me? It's just been an interesting experience.
That's great, David.
Okay.
Go ahead, Vani, and we'll finish up.
Yeah. So I mean, I am using obviously the ChatGPT and Google Brad. But in addition to that, for AI code assistant tool in our company, we are as a pilot program, we are using the Amazon Q developer because we are heavily on the AWS side from the infrastructure point of view. So I just wanted to know like other experience with respect to AI generating code tools, which one worked better compared like Copilot or any other tools. Just wanted to know the experience point of view.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We'll end. Thank you. Really good discussion, and let's keep the learning going. The change is not stopping. Thank you.